Okay, let's unpack this. When you hear the name Herodotus, what immediately springs to mind?
Well, the father of history, right?
Yeah,
That's the usual tag.
exactly. But what if I told you that revered title has been fiercely debated for centuries and often for very good reason?
It's fascinating, isn't it? How his work, The Histories, is like the founding document of Western history.
Hmm.
But at the same time, he got called a mythmonger almost right away. It really makes you ask, what is history anyway? Is it just facts or something else?
That's exactly where we're headed today. We're taking a deep dive into Herodotus's histories. We want to explore how this, pioneering work really laid the groundwork for how we understand the past.
Right, and look at what drove him to write it, some of the absolutely captivating stories he collected.
Oh, yeah.
And why his reliability has been such a hot topic since antiquity, really, right up to modern archaeology.
So our mission for you today is to give you a bit of a shortcut, maybe, to understanding this huge, important work. Its unique style, its legacy.
Yeah, hopefully you'll get a deeper feel for the ancient world through his eyes and think about how, stories, facts, human motives, how they all weave together to create what we call history.
Okay, so the Histories. Written around, 430 BC? What's so striking is it's not just a history book.
No, it's considered the founding work in Western literature, and it gives us one of the earliest big pictures of the Persian Empire's rise and, of course, the Greco-Persian Wars.
That huge clash.
Indeed. And Herodotus frames it right away as this struggle between, slavery, how he saw the Persian system, and freedom, the Greek side.
That immediately sets up a really powerful narrative, doesn't it? It's not just reporting events.
Absolutely. It gives it this moral dimension right from the start.
And he was pretty clear about why he was writing, wasn't he? He says it right at the beginning.
He does. Basically, to prevent the traces of human events from being erased by time and to preserve the fame of great deeds, Greek and non-Greek alike.
And crucially, to figure out the cause of the hostilities between them. He claimed he traveled a lot for this, right? Doing interviews, collecting stories.
Yeah, he did. And if you step back, you see this huge ambition, not just what happened, but why.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing in all these different cultural perspectives, which was pretty revolutionary for the time. He broke it down into 9 books named after the Muses. Gives it that epic feel.
It really does take you on a journey. His books are just packed with these stories. They're informative, but also just incredibly captivating.
They really are. They often seem to be doing double duty, telling you about events, but also maybe teaching a lesson.
Like in book 1, right at the start, you get that conversation between King Croesus, super rich guy, and Solon, the Athenian wise man.
Yeah, and Solon basically tells him, you can't call anyone happy until they're dead. It's not about the money.
It sets a theme for the whole work, really, about fate and maybe not getting too arrogant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings up that question. How much is straight history and how much is, let's say, narrative shaping?
Like the oracle at Delphi telling Croesus, if you attack, a great empire will fall.
Classic ambiguous prophecy. And of course, it's his own empire that falls.
Right. But he weaves in things that seem very specific, too, like Thales predicting that solar eclipse back in 585 BC during a battle.
It's a seamless blend, and you see that mix of cleverness and detail elsewhere, too.
Yeah.
Like Cyrus the Great taking Babylon.
Oh, yeah, not by storming the walls.
No, by diverting the river, the Gindis, and just marching in on the dry riverbed. Super clever.
And Herodotus adds that detail about Cyrus punishing the river itself because one of his sacred horses drowned in it.
It's those memorable details, right? Makes it stick.
And it's not just war and politics. Book 2 is basically all about Egypt. It's like an ancient travel guide.
It really is. He's so curious. He tries to figure out why the Nile floods every year.
His theory is kind of wild, involving snow melting in the desert.
Yeah, he gets it wrong, but the point is he's trying to explain it. He's inquiring.
And he describes everything, Egyptian customs, religion, how different it was from the Greeks, the animals.
Crocodiles, that bird that supposedly cleans the croc's teeth.
The trochilus, yeah. And mythical stuff, too, like the phoenix, winged snakes.
He's trying to capture the whole picture. The weird and the wonderful.
He even talks about building the Great Pyramid, mentions machines. Makes you wonder what he meant.
Exactly. And then there's that story totally different from Homer about Helen and Paris chilling in Egypt before the Trojan War.
Where did he get that? It really makes you think about his sources and how he picked and chose.
But the real core of the book, you have to say, is that massive clash, Greece versus Persia.
Yeah, book 7, Xerxes getting ready to invade, building the canal, the pontoon bridges. It's epic scale.
But Herodotus brings it down to the human level, too. Xerxes' dreams, the conflicting advice he gets, Mardonius saying, go for it. Artabanus saying, maybe not.
It shows how these huge historical moments can pivot on personal things, on the psychology almost.
Definitely. And he shows the sheer power of these kings. That story about Pythias.
Oh, that's brutal. Offers all his money, asks for one son to stay home.
And Xerxes has the son cut in half and makes the army march between the pieces. It's chilling. Speaks volumes about absolute power.
And then Thermopylae, just legendary.
It is. And Herodotus frames it not just as a battle, but about sacrifice, the betrayal by Rhachialtes.
Leonidas and the small force holding off that huge army.
And the grim end, Xerxes having Leonidas' head cut off and his body crucified.
Yeah.
It perfectly captures that ideological clash he set up earlier.
Then you get Salamis in Book 8, the sea battle.
Right. And Herodotus points out the Greeks had an edge because, well, they could swim. Fewer losses when ships went down. Smart observation.
And he even gives credit to Artemisia, the Persian woman commander, for her good advice to Xerxes.
Yeah, he notices competence, regardless of side or gender, which is pretty remarkable for his time.
But his curiosity went way beyond the battlefield.
Oh, absolutely. Book 4, he dives into the Scythians, north of the Black Sea, describes their culture, their famous dislike of foreigners.
His phobia, yeah. And those stories of the Androphagi, the man-eaters.
Whether true or not, he's recording what people said. He's doing early anthropology, comparing cultures.
You see it again in Book 3, how people collected gold in India or spices in Arabia.
It's his constant ethnographic interest. Comparing, contrasting. That's why people call him the father of comparative anthropology. He's genuinely trying to understand other ways of life.
And then there's that amazing bit in Book 4, the Phoenician sailors.
Ah, yes. Circumnavigating Africa. They claim they saw the sun on their right while sailing west.
And Herodotus says, basically, yeah, I don't buy it.
Right, because he didn't know about the southern hemisphere. But for us, that's exactly where the sun should have been.
It's incredible. A detail he doubts actually becomes evidence for the voyage happening. Accidental proof.
So his style,
Yeah.
it's just unique. People call it folksy, like conversational.
Yeah, but also international because it covers so much ground. It's this blend of being critical, but also just a great storyteller.
You can definitely see the influence of Homer and the Athenian playwrights. His stories often feel episodic, like scenes in a play, and there's often a moral point being made.
It's not just a dry list of facts. It feels like someone telling you amazing stories they just heard.
But he's clear about his goal. To set forth the reasons why they waged war on each other. He wants to know the causes.
A bit like Homer asking which god set them fighting in the Iliad. It's about causality.
Exactly. And his explanations aren't simple. He looks at all sorts of things, human emotions, revenge, gratitude. These are key drivers for him.
And he sees divine will and human action as kind of interconnected.
Yeah, it's like human choices explain what happens. The bad craftsman builds a weak house, it collapses. But maybe divine will explains why it collapsed on that person at that time. They work together in his view.
Okay, but the big question, the one that's always been there, can we actually trust him? How reliable is all this?
Ah, the million drachma question. Yeah. It was controversial even back then. Durrus of Samos called him a mythmonger. Cicero said his work was full of fables.
Yeah, some people preferred Thucydides, right? Saw him as more truthful, more analytical.
That's the traditional contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And modern critics, like Detlef Feeling, have argued pretty strongly that Herodotus maybe exaggerated his travels, maybe even made up some sources.
Pointing out that some of his Persian or Egyptian informants sound suspiciously Greek.
Exactly. And Feeling suggested Herodotus cared more about a good story, the exciting bits, the weird stuff, than sticking purely to the facts. Plus, there are accusations of bias, maybe pro-Athenian views, coloring his accounts of places like Thebes or Corinth.
So there's definitely a case for skepticism.
There is. But there's a really strong counter-argument, too.
Which is?
Well, for a huge chunk of history, for like 2 centuries in that part of the world, he's basically the only detailed source we have. Primary source.
Right. Take him away and there's a massive gap.
Precisely. And despite the criticisms, he's still hailed as the father of ethnography, comparative anthropology. Some even call him more modern than other ancient historians because he was so curious.
And then there's the archaeology.
Yes. This is where it gets really interesting. Time and again, archaeological digs have turned up evidence that seems to back up his descriptions.
Like Gelonus, that Scythian city people thought he'd exaggerated.
Vouch. Or discoveries in Heraklion, the sunken Egyptian city, or the Nocreta Stela. They match things he wrote. These aren't just minor points. They suggest a real foundation of observation.
You mentioned a recent example, too.
Oh yeah, fantastic one. 2019, archaeologists excavating in the Nile Delta found a specific type of Egyptian cargo ship called a barris,
Okay.
and it matched Herodotus' description in the histories almost perfectly. Down to the construction details he mentioned, it was a huge boost for his credibility as an observer, at least for his Egypt sections.
That's amazing. And speaking of things that sound unbelievable,
Yeah.
what about the gold-digging ants? That's my favorite.
Ah, yes. Book 3. These fox-sized furry ants in India that dig up gold dust sounds completely mythical.
It really does. Straight out of fantasy.
But again, stepping back, that French ethnologist Michel Peissel, back in the 80s, he proposed an idea. He suggested Herodotus might have actually been describing Himalayan marmots. They're big, furry, burrowing animals found in gold-rich areas in Pakistan.
Marmots, not ants.
Exactly. And apparently the local people there, the Manero, confirmed they do collect gold dust brought up by these marmots.
Wow. So how did Herodotus get ants?
Peissel thought it might be a translation issue. Herodotus probably relied on translators, right? Maybe the Persian word for marmot sounded like their word for mountain ant.
So the core observation, furry animals digging up gold, might actually be true.
Seems plausible. Now, Herodotus does add that these ants were said to chase and eat camels.
Okay, maybe that part's a bit much.
Right. That definitely shows the mix of reported fact and, well, travelers' tales or exaggeration getting woven in. But the core animal might be real.
So ultimately, he's this master storyteller walking that line between history and, well, stories.
I think that's right. He was serious about his inquiries, his research. But he wasn't afraid to include myths or amazing tales if they seemed relevant or widely believed.
But he tried to check them.
He claims to. He says he tried to corroborate stories, test their probability. Even with the myths, he often signals them.
And he's open about believing the gods are involved in things.
Yeah, he states it clearly. Many things prove to me that the gods take part in the affairs of man. Not like Homer's gods showing up in person, but their influence is there. They're part of the why.
Like that story of Arion, the musician saved by a dolphin.
Perfect example. He introduces it by saying a very wonderful thing is said to have happened. He signals it's extraordinary.
But then he adds that people in Corinth and Lesbos agree on the story. He's citing his sources, even for something that sounds mythical.
Exactly. It's that blend again, which leads to that great metaphor from John Harrington. Herodotus is a centaur.
The human front part is the historian, the horse body is the wilder storyteller.
Something like that. The responsible inquirer meets the ancient mythmaker. And it forces us to ask, can a story hold truth, even if it's not literally factually accurate in every detail?
For Herodotus, it seems the answer was yes. Myth and history weren't totally separate. They both helped understand the world, especially how events were remembered and passed down.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About truth and storytelling.
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean for you listening today? Our deep dive shows Herodotus' Histories is just this incredibly rich, complex, foundational work.
Yeah, it mixes deep reporting, amazing cultural observations, gripping stories of war, and this really thoughtful inquiry into human nature, fate, history itself.
He wasn't just a list maker, the father of history label. Maybe it's too simple.
Perhaps. Barry Strauss called him one of the greatest storytellers who ever wrote, but also a philosopher dealing with huge themes: East versus West, liberty, the rise and fall of empires.
Exploring everything from the grand scale, fate, and the gods down to individual actions.
Exactly. That interplay is key.
And maybe that mix of fact, narrative, history, myth, it invites you to think about the stories you use to understand the world. News, documentaries, family stories. How do they shape what you see as true?
That's a great takeaway. And if you are intrigued and want more, there were some great historical novels based on Herodotus. Stephen Pressfield's Gates of Fire is amazing, focuses right on Thermopylae.
Wow.
Or Gore Vidal's Creation, which gives you a Persian perspective, weaving Herodotus in.
Great suggestions. A good way to keep digging into his world.